Hello, America. I'm Erick Erickson. This is the afternoon briefing for June 4th, 2025, with the four stories that matter most this afternoon. Remember, you can get the full podcast of the Erick Erickson Show on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. These four stories percolated as the show was ending. You're going to want to know about them before you get home this evening. Up first are questions about the accuracy of U.S. inflation data. Recent concerns have emerged, according to the Wall Street Journal, among economists regarding the accuracy of U.S. inflation data due to staffing shortages at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS. A hiring freeze imposed by the Trump administration has reduced the number of enumerators available to collect monthly price data from businesses, leading to increased reliance on less precise estimation methods, such as, quote, different cell imputation. These adjustments were especially prominent in the April report, where 29% of price guesses were made using different cell imputation, almost twice as high as any month in the past 5 years. Economists stress that although there's no evidence of intentional manipulation, the reduced data quality could have significant implications. The consumer price index, on which these reports are based, affects Social Security adjustments, tax brackets, wage contracts, and over $2 trillion in inflation-linked federal bonds. The BLS's challenges, including the suspension of various other data series and errors in employment data, highlight broader worries about declining federal support for economic statistics. Experts warn that sustained issues could undermine confidence in U.S. government indicators, long considered a global benchmark. The BLS has not commented on the situation. The full impact of the data quantity decline remains uncertain. Now, the reassuring news is that the United States, unlike most countries, also has private sector data analysis to rely on. Often we can tell if the government data is accurate based on the private sector data. Right now, ADP wage and inflation data suggests the government data is still accurate. If there are major deviations, Wall Street will sound the alarm. It's another reminder that it's very hard for the U.S. government to manipulate economic data because our private sector data is so good and holds the public sector accountable. For example, the Biden recessionary data could not be covered up because the private sector reflected those numbers first. Instead, the Biden team had to rely on the claim that the long-held definition for a recession, 2 quarters of negative growth, was actually misunderstood. They couldn't cover up the data, so they tried to play word games with the complicit media. That's something the Trump team has not done. That's very important. Up next, the U.S. has secured extradition of the fertility clinic bombing suspect. Attorney General Pam Bondi played a key role in securing the expulsion of Daniel Jongyon Park from Poland to the United States. Park has been charged in connection with a deadly car bombing at a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California on May 18, 2025. The attack, which killed co-conspirator Guy Edward Bartkus, identified as a suicide bomber, and injured 4 others. It's one of the most high-profile incidents attributed to a growing movement that opposes in vitro fertilization clinics. Bondi was in Poland for an international attorneys general meeting when she assisted in efforts to bring Park back to the United States. He had fled to Poland 4 days after the bombing. The case has drawn significant attention due to the nature of the attack and the broader implications on security and anti-fertility treatment activism that's growing inside the United States. President Trump and Vladimir Putin have discussed the Ukrainian drone attack and ceasefire prospects. In fact, the president has revealed that Russian President Vladimir Putin warned of retaliation following a major Ukrainian drone attack on Russia's strategic air bases. The assault significantly damaged Russia's long-range bomber fleet, critical to both its war efforts in Ukraine and its nuclear deterrent capabilities. Despite Trump's ongoing efforts over the past 4 months to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine, he acknowledged after a 1 hour, 15-minute phone call with Putin, there's a real struggle to get to any peace. Ukrainian officials dismissed Russia's claims that the operation, codenamed Spiderweb, constituted terrorism, highlighting that their strikes focused on military targets, in contrast to Russia's prolonged bombardment of Ukrainian cities over the past 3 years. The development marks a potential escalation in the ongoing conflict, complicating diplomatic efforts for resolution. Lastly, the debate is intensifying over the president's spending bill and fiscal policies. As debate rages on Capitol Hill about the One Beautiful Bill Act, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson forcefully this afternoon says he's a firm no on the legislation unless major changes are made. Johnson joins Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, which means Republicans must either make major reforms to the legislation or can only lose one more senator, having J.D. Vance cast a tie-breaking vote. Johnson, echoing Elon Musk, calls the legislation an abomination and says it's immoral. Johnson highlights the Congressional Budget Office projections the package will raise the deficit by $2.4 trillion. He wants the bill split into two separate packages. While the Congressional Budget Office actually projects Donald Trump's tariffs could offset the tax bill and reduce the deficit, because the reconciliation process in the Senate relies on the data of the underlying package and not other revenue, the Senate cannot consider revenue generated by the tariffs as it considers the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Coming on the heels of Johnson's objections, President Trump is joining Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren in calling for the outright abolition of the debt ceiling, something Johnson, Paul, Cruz, Lee, and others oppose in the Senate. I'm very pleased to announce that after all these years, I agree with Senator Elizabeth Warren on something. The debt limit should be entirely scrapped to prevent an economic catastrophe. It is too devastating to be put in the hands of political people that may want to use it despite the horrendous effect it could have on our country and indirectly even the world. As Senator Warren's second statement on the $4 trillion, I like that also, but it would be done over a period of time as short as possible. Let's get together, Republican and Democrat, and do this. Donald Trump posted that on Truth Social. Conservatives should keep the debt ceiling, actually. It's one of the few remaining pieces of leverage conservatives have in Washington to force meaningful cuts. It's how Republicans forced Barack Obama to go to sequestration. So here are the takeaways this afternoon. Concern over the accuracy of U.S. inflation data highlight the importance of reliable economic indicators and the need for adequate funding and staffing at the Bureau of Labor Statistics to get it done. The extradition of Jongyon Park underscores the U.S. commitment to addressing domestic terrorism and the growing threats posed by extremist movements in the country, including now against in vitro fertilization clinics. The recent conversation between Trump and Putin reflects ongoing tensions in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the challenges in achieving a lasting ceasefire, but highlights Donald Trump's willingness to continue his engagement in the process. Debate over the Trump administration's spending bill and fiscal policies reveal real divisions within the Republican Party and the complexities of balancing economic growth with fiscal responsibility. That's what matters. This is your afternoon briefing. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and share this episode. Text Erick, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777 to get the show notes, the live stream, the full podcast, and more. I'm Erick Erickson. Stay grounded, stay informed, and always keep the faith.